Hey, good evening, good evening. Hey, welcome back to another Faith and Finance Tuesday. Now listen, I'm so glad that you were able to join me tonight. Hey, listen, this is episode 6. Episode 6, and I am truly excited about it. I believe I got a message that's going to encourage you tonight, and it's going to challenge you in the way you think about prosperity. Now, I'm excited. Episode 6. You know, I'll keep saying my episodes because my personal goal is to reach 100 episodes consistently without missing a day, right? But before we jump into tonight's lesson, I want to take a moment just to share something personal with you all. Today is my 57th birthday. Woo-hoo-hoo! You know, I'm excited about it. 57 years old. And I can't think of a better way to spend part of my birthday than investing in my future and in your future, right? So I'm excited. Again, I'm excited to be here. So before we get started, I just want to say thank you. I want to thank everybody for all the birthday wishes, the text messages, the phone calls, the comments, and the prayers. I truly appreciate everybody. You know, your love and your encouragement, it means more to me than you know. You know, birthdays have a way of making us slow down and, you know, just think for a moment. You know, we reflect and we, you know, really begin to think about life. And when I think back to being 27 years old or in my 30s, I'm amazed how quickly the years has passed. You know, and honestly, it feels like it was just yesterday, y'all. You know, I look back and feel like I was just 27 yesterday. And over those years, I've experienced some victories. I've learned that, you know, I've experienced some success and some setbacks. And, you know, I had my share of failure. And there has been some moments where I've been incredibly proud of myself. And there has also been some decisions I wish I can just go back and do things differently, you know. But here's what I've learned in those setbacks, those ups and down moments in my life. Every experience taught me something, you know. Every success that I had in my life, it taught me something. Every failure that I did, it taught me something. Every setback, you know, it taught me something. And if I can go and sit down with my 27-year-old self today, there are so many conversations we'll definitely have. So tonight, before we continue this series, I want to take just a moment, if y'all don't mind, to speak directly to those of you who are in your 20s and in your 30s. And if that's you, I really need you to hear me when I say this. The greatest asset you have right now isn't your paycheck. It isn't your career. It isn't education. It even not the people that you're hanging around. The greatest asset you have right now is time. Time is one asset that's once it's gone, you can't get it back. And right now you have something that many people, my age and older, we wish that we still had more of. You know, you have time to learn, you know, when you're in your 20s. You have time to grow. You got time to make mistakes and recover. You know, you got time to develop godly habits and invest in yourself. You know, time is on your side so you can actually build your future that your older self would thank you for. So don't waste these years chasing things that won't matter. Because I'm here to tell you, 20 years from now, it's not gonna make a difference. It's not gonna make a difference when you're in your 50s, when you're 50 and you in your 60s, and you look back in your 20s and those things that you was chasing in your 20s and 30s. You're gonna realize, man, that stuff didn't even matter. You know, so use these years, man. Use these years to become the man and woman of God that God has called you to be. Because if you develop the right mindset today, you completely change the direction of your tomorrow. And I really believe that. And that's exactly why I'm doing what I'm doing. And, you know, tonight's series is part 2 of developing the mind to prosper. You know, so if you're young, take that to heart and really utilize and take control of your time, because even as we talk about finances and the more dive deep into it, you're going to hear that if I utilize my resources now at the age I am in your 20s or your 30s, you got time to bounce back. You may grow your finances and then it may take a hit, but you still have time on your side. Or when we start talking about compound interest, you're going to really see how much time is on your side, And not saying that when you're in your 50s and your 60s, y'all, so I'm talking back to my 50 and 60-year-olds and my 40-year-olds. It's not too late for us. We still got a chance in the game, Y'all know me. I believe God said we're going to live to, we should live to 120. There are scriptures in the Bible that said that if you die at the age of 100, you're still dying way too young. So listen, guys, we still got a lot of time on our side. I know people is dying, they say 70 and 80s and stuff like that, but I believe, man, you trust God and believe God and do what God tell you to do. And the stuff that's coming in our culture and society, I think we're going to start seeing people live longer. And so I'm not even middle-aged yet. I still got 3 more years before I become middle-aged. So if God's word is true, I still got 60 years. So time is on my side too. But really, y'all, I'm serious about that. You 20-year-old, you 30-year-olds, man, even in your 40s, your early 40s, take control over your time. Take control over your time. Utilize your time. Do what you need to do. Put your money up. Give your money time to grow. Time to grow. I'm going to share this with you before we really get into this lesson. I was talking to my son earlier today, and we was talking about investing. And I was telling him, son, I figured it out. When it comes to investments, a lot of us, because we go without for so long, people who go without so long, you really just want to jump into that accumulation stage, and you just want to start seeing your money grow. And what I told him, I said, what we have to do is utilize the time that you got, and you got to set it up properly. You got to make sure you got a solid foundation before you start accumulating, because if the foundation is not solid, when that foundation fails, I'm here to tell you everything that you are building is going to fall. So you got to get that foundation together. And that's what we're talking about tonight. And that's why we're not really getting into specific numbers yet, because we're talking about developing the mind to prosper. Developing the mind to prosper. Now, my goal isn't simply to help you make more money. That's not my goal. My goal is to help you become the kind of person who knows how to build it, who knows how to manage what you have, multiply the finances that God gave you, and use it for God's glory. That's what we want to do. So last week we ended up with a statement, or I ended up with a statement that I believe deserves its own conversation. And I said these words. I said, giving someone more money doesn't automatically makes them prosperous. It doesn't mean that they're going to be prosperous because they gave a lot of money. So that's what we're going to start off talking about tonight, and then we'll get into the other points. But so let's pick up right there. Giving somebody more money doesn't automatically mean that they're going to prosper. If the mindset remains the same, guess what? The money, it may disappear. We talk about this in our last lesson. There are people who have earned millions and millions of dollars, and then what they do, they end up losing it. Why? Because their mind wasn't right. See, there are people who received inheritance, and what do they do with the inheritance? They spend everything. I've seen it with my own eyes. People with family leave them with $100,000, $200,000. And 5 years later, they're broke, So just because you end up with a lot of money doesn't mean that that's automatically going to make you prosper. We also know, well, I don't know anybody personally, but you may know somebody personally who won a large amount of money, and they still struggling today. And the reason why they're still struggling because money can change your circumstances only for a temporary time. But only growth can change your life permanently. So money can give you assets, right? But wisdom teaches you what to do with the assets. Money can buy you a house, but discipline helps you maintain that house, right? So we know money can help you start a business, but that doesn't mean your business is going to be successful. But when you have the character, you have knowledge, and you have consistency, that's what keeps the business operating. So we know that money can open those doors. But again, we talk about personal growth. Personal growth prepares you to remain in the room. That money may get you in the room, but what's going to keep you in the room? So before we ask God for more, what do we need to ask God? Am I becoming the kind of person who can manage more? Can I manage the wealth, right? And we was talking about Joseph last week. So I want to continue to talk about Joseph. Because Joseph was in an environment shifter. It didn't make a difference where Joseph was going to be at. Joseph was going to transform the environment. Joseph did not conform to his environment. Listen to this. He changed it. And when Joseph entered Potiphar's house, we know that the house became better because Joseph was there. When Joseph was sent to prison, even the prisoners began operating differently because why? Joseph was in the house. When Joseph was eventually brought before Pharaoh, a whole nation that was basically going down because Joseph entered into the scene. It became better. It became better. Why? Because Joseph was there. And everywhere Joseph went, he brought solutions. And that is the mind to prosper. A mind to prosper asks, what can I improve here? Right? A mind to prosper asks, what problems can I solve? What value can I bring? Right? What needs to be organized or what needs to be managed? What can I help make better? Right? And you think about it, Joseph did not walk into Egypt. He didn't go in there asking, what can Egypt do for me? That's not a mind to prosper. He walked into Egypt carrying something Egypt needed. He carried some wisdom. He carried some integrity. He had some administrative abilities. He had some discernments. And most importantly, he had the favor of God on his life. And eventually, the gift inside of him, what did it do for him? It made room for him. It made room for him. And this is why we cannot spend our entire lives asking only, how much am I getting paid? We got to start asking, what am I becoming, right? What am I learning on this job, in this situation? What value am I developing here? What problems am I becoming qualified to solve? And we're talking about income and we're talking about mindset, but even when we talk about this in the church, a lot of us, we come to church and we got in our mind, what can the church do for me? And we need to ask ourselves, what can I bring? What can I add to this church? What can I add? What ability can I bring that can make this better? Because when we start talking about value and we're talking about growing, we got to know that the income often follows value. Incomes follow growth, So Joseph's position eventually changed because Joseph had developed the capacity to solve a whole nation problem, right? Pharaoh did not promote Joseph simply because he felt sorry for him. Joseph had an answer to Pharaoh's problem. And there was going to be 7 years of plenty followed by 7 years of famine. That's what he told him. And Joseph did not just interrupt the dream. Joseph, he presented a plan. He said, this is what this dream means, and this is what we need to do. He came with a solution. You know, he said, here's how it's going to go. We need to start storing during the years of plenty. We need to prepare before the famine arrives. We need someone wise and discerning to manage the system. Listen to this. Now this is all wealth building right here, right? Because if we look at ourselves, many of us, we don't prepare for the what ifs. We want to prepare our lives. We want to live our lives like everything is just going to always be in one direction and it's going to go constantly up. But what about when you have those downtime? What about when the unexpected comes? What about when the thing you didn't desire, or let me put it this way. What about them times you don't give yourself enough room for mistakes? You know? So we need to learn how to manage our systems that we have set up. Learn the systems, what we need to do. We need to make sure that our mind is always the mind of prosper. Now, that goes back to what I was telling my son. Many of us, we look for the accumulation. We want to grow. We want to prosper, but we don't want to set the foundation. See, we don't want to work the systems because the system can be boring. We don't want to do those things that we need to do because we think that it's not exciting enough. So we get ourselves into positions where we're not doing what we're supposed to do because we have jumped ahead instead of planning the right way. Joseph seen that there was going to be a problem, and Joseph said, let's plan for tomorrow. Let us not just spend on today and live for today. When the abundance came, Joseph said, we need to manage the abundance so that we can prepare for the shortage. And that is financial wisdom. See, prosperity is not only knowing how to survive in a famine. It's knowing how to manage the years of plenty so that when famine does come, that famine won't destroy you. See, some people only change when crisis happen. They start budgeting after they are already behind. I raised my hand. How many of us is on the other end raising our hand because that's what we done? We didn't prepare for them times when struggle comes, when shortcoming comes. We want to get into that point in our lives where we start saving after the emergency. We start thinking about insurance after a tragedy has occurred. And then some of us still don't move. We start thinking about retirement 5 years away from retiring. But look what Joseph did. Joseph had the wisdom to prepare before the problem ever arrived. And that is the mindset that we need today. We need to make sure that we are developing the mind to say, well, I'm not going to wait until, and I'm going back to my young people, develop the mind that says I'm not going to wait until I'm 50 to prepare for 65 or 70. I'm going to start preparing for my future and for my generations behind me, for my children and my children's children right now. Right now. Because when you develop that mindset that I'm going to take control of my future right now, you are making your way prosperous. You're making your way prosperous. Now let's look at another passage. Joshua 1, verse 7, verse 8 through in verse 8, King James Version. It says, only be thou strong and very courageous, that thou mayest observe to do according to all the law which Moses my servant commanded thee. Turn not from it to the right hand or to the left, that thou mayest what? Prosper whithersoever thou goest. This book of the law shall not depart out of thy mouth, but thou shalt meditate there day and night, that thou mayest observe to do according to all that is written therein. For then thou shalt make For then thou shalt make. For then thou shalt make. What is he saying? After you have observed to do, not just studying, not just learning the word, not just learning the systems, not just learning about finances, not just learning how to become better, not just learning how to become value or be more valuable, not just learning, but he said, after you have observed to do what you have learned, according to all that is written therein, for then thou shalt make thy way prosperous, and then shalt thou have good success. Now I want you to notice the wording. God told Joshua, then thou shalt make thy way prosperous, right? God gave Joshua his word, the blueprint. He gave him the manual. He gave him the instructions. God gave Joshua the direction. He gave him all the resources that he really needed. But Joshua still had responsibility, didn't he? He had to meditate on the word. He had to speak the word. He had to obey the word. And he had to remain courageous. He had to remain courageous. He had to refuse to turn to the right or to the left. And if he did all those, then the Bible says that he will make his way prosperous. In other words, God said, I provide the principles. I provide the wisdom, and I provide the opportunity. I'm going to give you the strength, but you still have to apply what God has given you. See, we cannot ignore every instructions and then blame God because nothing is changing. We cannot refuse to plan and then wonder why our finances stays in confusion. We cannot refuse to save and then wonder why every emergency becomes a crisis in our life. We can't refuse to learn and then wonder why we keep repeating the same mistakes. See, Joshua was told what? To meditate and observe to do. Not just hear, not just sit up there and quote it, not just sit up there and shout about it, but he said, but to do it. And that is where good success comes from. Say good success. See, because I love that. I love that phrase, good success. Because all success is not good success. You can gain money and you can, lose your family. We know that what is it for a man to prosper and gain the whole world but lose his own soul? That's not good success. You can build a business and be destroyed in your health. That's not good success. You can come wealthy, and on your way of becoming wealthy, you lose all your integrity. That's not good success. You can get up here and you can be that one and go out and you can oppress everybody and you can still have no peace within yourself. And guess what? That's not good success. Because good success is success that can live with you. Good success is success that honor God. It's success that includes peace. It can include wisdom. It includes your character. It includes your integrity. It includes your health and stewardship. See, good success does not only ask how much did I gain, right? But it also asks, what did it cost me? Write that down. What did it cost you? Not just what did I gain, but what did it cost me? See, Joseph had good success because his success was built on faithfulness. What was his success built on? You go look at Joseph. It was built on wisdom and integrity and preparation and staying constantly in the presence of our God. And that is the kind of prosperity we want in our lives. We don't just want to get something only to lose it. We want the wisdom to manage what God gives us. We want the character to keep it, right? We want the discipline to keep growing what God gives us. And we want the heart to use it for something meaningful. right? We want to make an impact and be able to help others with what God has given us, not just to say, "Oh, look at me! I made all this money. Look what I did for myself." But we want to be able to impact, make our world a better place, right? And let me ask you this: when you walk into an environment, does it become better because you're there? Now ask yourself that. Am I that person that when I enter a room, everybody's excited because I'm there, because they know better is coming? I bring value to the room that I'm in. Does your workplace become better? Does your family become stronger? Does your church become stronger? Does your business, if you're a business owner, does your business become owner? Do people receive solutions from you? Do you bring peace when you enter into the room? Can you bring excellence into chaos when you in the room? Do you bring some order in the midst of confusion? Are you bringing in new ideas, or are you the type of person that you just sit back and I'm just going to do what I've been trained to do? And that's it. Do you bring value, right? Because a prosperous person does not only ask for better surroundings, a prosperous person improves the surrounding they have. Listen to that. Don't just ask for better surroundings. A lot of us, we want to go to everything that's already perfect. We want the perfect family. We want the picket white fence. We want the perfect job situation. We want to go to the perfect church that got children's ministry, got a woman's ministry, got a health ministry over there, and we want to go into all these perfect situations, but we don't want to bring value to any of it to help create something. We don't want to go into an environment where there may not be those things, where there's lack, and we want to say, hey. We don't want to say what I'm trying to say. We don't want to go in there and say, hey, I'm here. I can bring some value to that situation. I can add to that. I can make it better. A lot of us, we want everything perfect. We want the conditions to be perfect. So here's what I want you to do for your action steps for point 2. When we look back at Joseph's life, I want you to look at the environment where God has currently placed you at, right? Your environment, it can be your home, it can be on your job, it can be your business, it can be your church, It can even be maybe in your neighborhood, your community. But what I want you to ask, what is one thing I can do to make my environment better? Maybe you are an organizer, so you can make things organized. Maybe you are a great communicator, so you can improve the communications, or maybe you don't communicate well and you can improve on your communication. Maybe you can say, hey, you know what? I don't know how to operate in this manner, but I am willing to learn. I'm willing to develop a new skill today. Maybe there's some problems that you have the answer to, so you can go in and solve problems that everybody keeps complaining about. I want you to ask, what can I do? Maybe you can begin bringing greater excellence on your job, right? Even in your home, maybe you are the one that's listening tonight that can create a financial plan, not just for yourself, but for your household. Maybe you can set something up and learn something that you can begin to teach your children, or teach your wife or your husband, or teach your nephews, nieces. You can share with them what you are learning about money. You can share with them what you've been learning about, through faith and finance, developing the mind, developing growth, creating value with yourself. But what I want to tell you, don't despise where you currently are. Don't despise where you are. Just think about Joseph's path to the palace. He had to go through Potiphar's house. He had to go through the prison. And every environment was developing something that he later needed, right? You may be in a place right now where you feel small. You know, we talked about Gideon and how Gideon felt like he was the least amongst his people. Maybe that's you. But what I want to tell you tonight is don't waste this season. Don't waste it. Don't waste where you are right now, spiritually, financially, with your health. You begin to grow right where you are. You may not have $1 million today, but you can put up $1. Put up $1 today, put up $1 tomorrow, put up $1 the next day. Maybe you can't do $1 every day. Do $1 a week. Start putting some up and then put it up to where you can start investing. And while you're putting up that dollar, pick up a book and start learning. You know, start learning. Start learning more. Start learning how to build yourself up to become that person that God has called you to be. Learn how to get a millionaire mindset. Don't just say I want to be a millionaire, but learn what is the mindset. Develop yourself. And that's what we have to do right where you are right now. You got to learn how to serve right here, right now, and stop looking at yourself and say, well, I don't have anything to bring. Yes, you do. You can bring yourself, bring your mindset of, I want to become the best. Whatever I put my hands on, I want to bring value to it. And like I said, begin to develop there. Because when you carry a prosperous mindset, you do not have to wait until you get to the palace and start thinking like you're a leader. I'm going to say that again. You don't have to wait to get to the palace to start thinking like a leader. You don't have to wait until you become the boss to start thinking like a boss. You develop a boss mindset right now. You develop a leader mindset right now. We develop millionaire mindset right now. We may not have $1 million, but that's okay. But we're going to develop the mindset of a millionaire. When? Right now. And this is what this is all about. We're not trying to wait until we get $1 million. We want to start developing a billionaire mindset right now, right? So we can start learning and start doing what we need to do to get the wealth that we want to get to. And hey, maybe you don't want to be a millionaire. Your aspirations is different than mine. You know, maybe you be cool with 6 figures. You might be the person that's cool right where you are, but learn how to grow what you have, right? Practice on discipline. Practice on becoming faithful right now. Increase your value right now. And when the opportunity presents itself, guess what? You are going to be ready. You are going to be ready because you have been working on yourself right now. You haven't been having a pity pat party about where you are right now, what you don't have right now. You're not developing or continuing to have a poverty mindset. You are changing your mindset. You'll be renewing your mind, and you are going to become prosperous. Why? Because of your mindset. Your mindset. See, Joseph had that mindset. Joshua had the word, right? But neither one of them was prosperous. They weren't prosperous at the time. They weren't prosperous because of good intentions. They was prosperous because they had to follow the instructions. See? And this is where many of us get in trouble. We want the results of the system without consistently. Listen to that word, consistently. I want you to write that down and put some exclamation marks behind it. 3 or 4 of them. Consistently. We want the results, but we don't want to work the system. And you have to consistently work the system. Consistently work the system. See, we want the harvest, but how many of us are out there planting seeds every day? How many of you out there doing what you are supposed to do, putting a seed in the ground? Remember, I told you, put $1 up. A dollar may not seem like nothing, but that dollar is a seed. And how many seeds do you actually have in the ground? How many people are you helping? How many people have you been giving? Or how much have you been giving to your charities, to your church, to, just what seed do you have in the ground? And are you consistently working that system? See? We want progress, y'all, but we don't want to follow a plan. And everybody has to have a plan, because here's the saying, he who fails to plan plans to fail. And so you cannot get progress if you don't have a plan. So we want the progress, but we don't want to follow the plan. So next we're going to talk about obedience, discipline, and why they have to why we have to stop tinkering with the instructions, right? So point three, stop tinkering with the system. That's what we're going to say. Stop tinkering with the system. We talked about being status quo, right? We and so forth. We done talked about developing a prosperous mindset. So now I want to talk about something that has probably cost me more opportunities than anything else in my life. Trying to improve the system before I learn the system. I'm going to write that down. Try to improve the system before you learn the system. That's one of the things that I've learned in my business right now. I work for a company that's been around for 180 years. And they've been working the same system for 180 years. And the last thing I need to do is walk in the door talking about I got a better system. Because if that system been working for 180 years, guess what? That system going to continue to work. So what is my job? Is to learn the system, work the system, consistently work the system so the system can work for me. Now, have any of you been there? Have somebody given you instructions, but you think you got a better way? A lot of us, we sit down and we read the Bible. God gives us an instruction, but we think we got a better way, right? And I remember when back in multi-level marketing or network marketing, the people around me would tell me, just follow the system. Say it this way. Present it this way. Same thing with my current job now. Do it this way. But y'all who know me don't know me. I said, I think I can make it better. I think I can say this instead of what you told me to say. I think I'll change it and do it this way. Then when it didn't work, guess what? I blame the company. I blame the presentation. I blame the opportunity. But it wasn't the system. Guess what? It was me. I wasn't working the system. I was working my own system. And I think we do the same thing with our finances. We know we should budget, but we don't, because maybe we think it's some way better. We know we should save, but we don't. We know we should avoid unnecessary debt, but we don't avoid it. We know what we should invest, how we should be investing consistently, but we keep waiting for perfect times. We know we should live beneath our means, but we keep trying to live with the Joneses, right? Then we wonder, why isn't this working? And that's what I was kind of telling my son earlier today. We want to jump ahead of the system. There's a system on how to grow finance. If you listen to a lot of wealthy people say becoming wealthy is slow. It's consistency involved in becoming wealthy. There's a system that you have to follow to become wealthy. And if you're not willing to work that system and learn the system and work the system and learn the system and work the system, then you're not willing to prosper. So every time we say that I can make it better, I'm going to do it this way, and then we wonder why it's not working. We're not working the system. What did Joshua 1:8 say? This book of law shall not depart out of thy mouth, but thou shalt meditate therein day and night, for then thou shalt make thy way prosperous, and then thou shalt have some good success. Now notice God didn't say it'll magically make you prosperous. That ain't what he said. He said meditate, right? He said observe, right? Then what did he say? He said do. And after you do those three things, then you will make your way prosperous. And what is that, y'all? That's a system. The world had a system. Money, it has principles, and investing has a system. Building wealth, it has a system. You know, getting out of debt, guess what? It has a system. And successful people don't constantly reinvent the system. But successful people constantly apply the system. That's what God was telling Joshua. He said, here is the system that I'm presenting. And if you work the system, what is my saying? If you work the system long enough, the harvest will show up. And that's one reason I always tell you at the end of what I'm saying, of what we're doing. Work the system long enough for the harvest to show up. Because too many people quit before the harvest, right? You budgeting for 2 weeks, and then you quit. You go out and you saving money for 1 month, then you quit. You know, you start reading, and you start learning, you start improving, and then you quit. You start investing, then you quit, and then you start back over. Then you quit. You know, you put the books down, then you quit. You start exercising for a few months, then you quit. And you in this cycle where you're starting and you're stopping, but guess what? Every time you stop, you got to start over. So the problem isn't always the plan. Sometimes we simply don't stay with the plan long enough to see the plan work. Think about farmers. A farmer doesn't plant on Monday and inspect and then go back and dig the crop up Friday. And say, he don't do that and then go around and say, oh, man, that seed ain't working. The seed didn't take. That ain't what he does. He has an understanding that there's a season that you have to plant, and there's a season where you got to water. There's a season where you got to wait, and then there's the harvest. See, financial success works the same way. You don't become wealthy because of one good decision. You know, some people, like I said, they going out and they playing lotteries and stuff. And I don't have nothing against people who play the lottery, but what are they doing? They spending their money on a wish and a hope. And you just go back and you spend, and you think about all the money that they done spent playing the lottery. If they would invest what they spent on the lottery, they'll be wealthy already. You know, I remember a young lady, I was watching this young lady at the store, and she was playing lottery tickets. Buying lottery tickets. And I can't remember exactly how much she spent, but it was some ridiculous number, like $25 to $30 a day on lottery tickets. And y'all hear me, I said a day. And I don't know if she's still doing it or not, but she said, I do this every day. And I wasn't even in finances at the time. But I'm saying to myself, man, if you invest that, you would already probably been wealthy. But how many people do that? See? And we got to develop the mind that I become wealthy because I consistently make good decisions over time. You know, every small decision that I make, I'm going to repeat it faithfully. I'm going to keep doing it. And I'm going to produce big results. And this is why we're spending so much time talking about mindset, y'all. Because before we can get into budgeting, debt, and talking about credit, investing, or even retirement, our thinking has to change. First, your thinking has to change. You know, your behavior has to change. Because if you change your behavior, then guess what? You change your habits. And if you change your habits, guess what? You can change your finances. You know, that's why faith and finance isn't just about dollars. It's about developing people who can be trusted with dollars. you can be trusted with money because money is simply a tool. Write that down. Money is simply a tool. But my character, right, your character, develops how the tool is going to be used. So tonight, I want you to challenge yourself before next Tuesday. I want you to identify one financial system you need to commit to, right? Maybe you need to commit to a budget, right? Maybe you need to track every dollar you're spending. Maybe coming up into an automatic saving every day where you can just do some, I don't care if it's coins, but you just put money up every day. Maybe it can be just paying a little bit more on your debt, on your credit cards, on whatever you got to pay off. And for those who are older and that don't even have a retirement fund, maybe it's just opening, right? Opening that retirement fund, opening that account. But what I don't want you to do is just try to change everything overnight. Just work one system. Work one system long enough for the harvest to show up, right? That's all I want you to do. So before next Tuesday, let's just work one system. All right? So family, I pray tonight lessons has challenged you, and remember, prosperity begins in your mind before it ever shows up in your bank account, right? If you develop the right mindset, apply biblical principles, and consistently work the system. I'm going to say it again. If you consistently work the system, you're going to begin to see progress in every area of your life. Every area of your life. So, guys, listen. Let me do something here real quick. All right. If today's message encouraged you, or you have any questions about your finances, I love to have the opportunity to help, right? So I put this QR code up here. Simply scan the QR code on the screen to schedule your complimentary financial checkup, right? Seen a couple of people scan the QR code last week. I mean, you do have to book your appointment, but just go ahead and follow through. Right? You was led, I don't know if you're on here tonight, but if you was led last week and to scan the QR code and then follow through, it's complimentary. What we'll do is sit down one-on-one. We'll talk about your goals and we'll answer, I answer your questions and help you begin to build a financial strategy that's right for you, right? Not right for me, but something that you can use in your life, right? So I'm just here to help, and that's all I want to do is help you become better with your finances. And we're going to be talking about a lot of different things, and you don't have to wait until we start talking about how to budget, how to get out of debt, how to grow your finances, how to build your foundations. You don't have to wait until we get to those stages to start doing it. You can scan this QR code right now, and I'd love to help you. If there's an opportunity where you can be helped, I'd love to help you, all right? So, hey, y'all, it's my birthday. It's time for me to get out and go have a little fun with the rest of the day, But before I close, I just want to say this again. Remember to work the system long enough for the harvest to show up, right? And don't just work the system long enough for the harvest to show up. I want you to measure the seeds you plant every day, because your harvest doesn't come from wishing. It comes from faithful activity. All right? Until next Tuesday, y'all, God bless and peace, and appreciate y'all, and I'll see y'all next Tuesday.